going to understand what's the relationship between the people, right? First of all, maybe even before this, you can write down the names of the people in the passage. There's usually maybe 2 to 3 people involved, sometimes just 2, right? And then the relationship between them, especially like how they're talking with each other and their motive. What are their motives, right? They're always interacting with each other, right? There's always one guy talking, one woman talking, and what do they want to talk about, right? So this is good. This is just basic information about lit passages, right? We are talking about lit passages, guys, literature passages over here, right? We're going to consider 2 passages, all right? And then the other thing I wanted to talk about, and totally escaped my mind now, was the time. Okay, so how long? As you know, there's 65 minutes, right? And there's 5 passages, right? Out of which maybe 1 is paired and 4 are regular. So out of this, 65 over 5 gives you 13 minutes, right? Out of 13 minutes, right? Usually I would say spend about 6 to 7 minutes on reading, right? But for lit passages, maybe you should spend a little bit more, okay? So you got to borrow some time from these other passages, and you want to make this passage maybe 16 minutes, okay? And if you want, you can put this passage at the very end, okay? This passage is usually the first or second passage, but you can, if you are having difficulty, put this at the very end. So you're like, whatever happens, right? Doesn't matter. But this passage I'm going to show you, maybe it would help you to, right? It might help you to improve your score. So once again, names are important. The relationships between the people are important. And most importantly, what's the motive, right? Who's thinking what about them? And then remember 16 minutes, give a little bit more time to the lit passage, okay? All right, so with that, we're gonna start reading. What I would suggest is you can just read in your mind with me and see how I understand this passage better, and then we'll answer the questions, okay? So let's get going. So the first thing is this piece over here, this intro, right? This passage is by someone, right? The Stranger of Beauty, whatever, 1999, okay? The setting is Japan, that's important, in 1920. Now, Chie, this person, and Naomi, okay, are the members of the House of Fuji, whatever, right? Like my wife is Japanese, so I know these names are like kind of people say Chi or something. But this is Chie, Naomi, that's how they pronounce it. Okay, this thing over here, they're talking about some Japanese culture, etc., right? Some people over here. So now let's get started reading Akira, right? So there's 3 people already. There's Chie, there's Naomi, right? And then the Fuji is just the house of the house, and then there's Akira, right? This, of course, I'm saying it to you, that's why it's taken time, but it should be in your head. There's 3 people over here, okay? Akira came directly, right? Breaking all tradition, right? What was it, right? What was that it? Sorry, was that it? Had he followed form? Had he asked his mother to speak to his father to approach a go-between, right? Would Chie have been more receptive, right? So this passage over here, what's going on, right? They're introducing this Akira guy, and he's coming directly, right? Let's read the passage and let's understand a little bit more, right? And then we'll maybe stop over here and think about what the passage is talking about. So he came on a winter's eve, okay? He pounded on the door with a cold rain beat on the shuttered veranda, okay? Just describing stuff. So at first, Chie, this lady, right, who taught him only the wind. So she's just thinking it's the rain and it just wind against the door, right? The maid knew better. So the maid knows what's going on, okay? So the maid is the 4th person here, right? I put her in brackets over here, okay? The maid is the 4th person over here, okay? Now the Chie heard her soft footsteps, the creak of the door, etc. So this woman is kind of like letting Akira in or something, right? The maid brought a calling card to the drawing room, right? So whatever, the calling card, if you don't know, like it's like a card, right, to let people inside. Chie was reluctant to go to her guest. Perhaps she was feeling too cozy, right? What does this mean? She doesn't want to go and meet this Akira guy, right? Why? Because she's too cozy, too comfortable. Why? They're going to explain now. They're going to explain. So she and Naomi were reading at a low table. So who's this Naomi girl, right? We're going to find out now. She and Naomi. So Chie and Naomi are two women, and Akira is a guy, right? We're reading at some table atop some kind of a brazier, whatever that means, right? A thick quilt, right? A quilt spread over the sides of the table so that the legs were tucked inside. So it's very like that's why it's cozy, because they're like, these two ladies are inside like under a blanket or etc., right? So very comfy over here, and she doesn't even want to get out. So who is it at this hour? She's kind of like a little bit irritated maybe, right, in this weather, or at least a bit curious. She picked the card and she's asking the maid, right? And the maid is answering Shinoda Akira, right? So that's the guy's name, Akira, right over here, right? From some college, right? Whatever. Now Naomi, right? This is the first time we're talking about Naomi. All the while it was Chie, and Naomi is here now, right? Recognize the name, right? And Chie heard soft intake of air. So kind of like, right? So Naomi is kind of like alerted now, right? She's alert now about Akira, right? She's maybe excited, she's scared, whatever. We don't know, but there's some relationship. This is the first time there's a relationship between some person, right? Naomi and Akira, okay? That's it. And then Naomi says, please go and let Akira in. So Akira's at the door, he's knocking. Akira's over here, Chie is inside over here, and Naomi's over here. She's excited that Akira's come, and she tells Chie, please go and receive him, right? Now it's a bit messed up over here. Let me just get rid of these. And thanks for your patience, guys. I know this writing this stuff on such a whiteboard is difficult, but here we are. Akira was waiting in the entry, right? So now Akira, talking about Akira now, okay? He was in his early 20s, slim and serious, etc. Just describing him as he bowed, his hands hanging straight from. So this is just a description, right? Chie glanced beyond him, right? She's glancing beyond him, right? So which means she opens the door and there's Mr. Akira over here, and but she's glancing. She wants to see if there's someone else with him or not. Okay, so she's looking if he's alone or there's someone with him. Okay. So she saw his reflection like a dark double. Okay, so this is just describing what's going on in the glistening surface of the courtyard's rain. So it's raining, and she's wondering if he's come with someone else. Okay, now the dialogue starts. Okay, so this is even more important. And guys, you're going to read it in your mind, so it's going to be faster. I'm just speaking it out and explaining, so it's taking time. But still, Madame, Akira said, Akira, forgive my disruption, but I come with a matter of urgency. Okay, so something urgent, right? Urgent is a great word, so you got to understand this. His voice was soft and refined. He straightened and stole a deferential peek at her face, right? Okay, great, Vic. So maybe you can, right? So perfect, but other people haven't. So I've got another one. We can talk about that, right? But still, you'll see how to answer these, right? So even though you read it, right? Come along for the ride, right? It's okay. You'll still, maybe you'll find some information, right? And then I'll show you how to answer them as well. I don't know who's read what, right? This is a popular passage. This is the first one in the test, okay? So his voice was up. Okay, so in the dim light, his eyes shone with sincerity, right? So a nice guy, according to the author, according to this lady, he's a sincere guy, apparently, and Chie felt herself starting to like him. So Chie kind of likes this guy, okay? But who is this guy? No one knows. He's just a stranger right now. Chie and Naomi, who we don't know what their relationship is as of now, right? Now Chie is saying, come inside, right? Because it's raining, right? Get out of this nasty night, okay? So this is Chie talking over here, come inside. And then Naomi saying, I don't want to trouble you. Akira saying, I don't want to trouble you. Normally, I would approach you at more properly. But is such an important word, guys, okay? But however, although all of these words are like, kind of call them the transition words, right? Something's going to happen now. Okay, very, very important word. Keep your eyes out on this. I've received word of a position. What does this mean? Okay, what does it mean? If you don't understand what this means, move on to the next line. You'll understand it a little better. I've an opportunity to go to America as a dentist, right? Remember here this guy is a Kobe Dental College guy, right? So maybe he's a dentist and he's gotten a job opportunity, right? An opportunity to go to America as a dentist. Okay, so they're in Japan. He's got an opportunity to go to America. Okay, Seattle. Okay, congratulations, she says with amusement, right? She's like, okay, whatever. So what? Well, why are you here, right? How am I involved? That's what she's asking, right? So far, what's happened is it's a cold night, the rainy. Akira's come. Naomi and Chie. So far, it's been a waste of our time reading this, right? Like, what's going on? We don't know yet. He just being profusely polite and apologetic, right? So, okay. So even noting her, okay, so where is it? So she says, how am I involved? Okay, so here's, I would say that this part starts over here, even noting Naomi's breathless reaction, right? That's one thing, right? She noticed that Naomi was excited when this guy came, but what is it? She has no idea yet. So Akira's message, delivered like a formal speech, filled her with maternal amusement. Okay, fine. Let's move on, whatever this motive is, right? You know how children speak so earnestly, so hurriedly, etc., about so many things that have no importance in an adult's mind. So now looks like this Chie woman is an adult, right? And Akira is like a dentist, so like a young student, and she's thinking that he's just a child, okay? But she's excited, right? That's how she viewed him, as a child, okay? It was how she viewed Naomi, right? Even though Naomi was 18, there we go. So Naomi is now 18, okay? So Chie is, who's Chie, right? Um, endlessly in the arts, needed to make a good marriage. She had no effort, had made no effort to find her a husband, right? So Akira, like maternal amusement is right over here. So she's probably her mom, right? So there's Chie, that's the mom of Naomi, and then there's Akira, right? And Naomi's excited about Akira in some way. So now Chie made no effort to find her a husband, right? So looks like at that time when you're 18, the mom wants to find a husband, but she didn't find her. Okay, fine. So Akira blushed, right? Why? I don't know. But maybe he's just excited about something. Let's see. Depending on your response, I may stay in Japan. I've come to ask for Naomi's hand. Oh my God. So this is the most important thing. I've come to ask for Naomi's hand. Wow. And this suddenly is like an important word. Suddenly she felt the dampness of the night. So he's come, he's come that he, of course, he wants to marry Naomi, who's 18. I don't know how old this guy is. Let's put an age of like 22 or something. And this woman, I don't know, maybe like 40ish or something. Okay. Suddenly, Chie felt the dampness of the night. Does Naomi know of your ambitions? So ambition is a great word, right? Means she thinks that he's just ambitious, right? Naomi doesn't know about it, right? Now Akira's answering here. We have an understanding, right? Please don't judge my candidacy by the unseemliness of this proposal. So we have an understanding means Naomi knows that I am going to ask, like I'm coming over here, etc. Right? I asked directly, right? Which means I asked directly. Unseemliness, first of all, by the unseemliness of this proposal means he just come over here, right? He just come over here asking, knocking on the door and asking for her daughter's hand in marriage on a damp, cold, rainy night, right? So that's why he's like, it's kind of like a bit nervous, right? Imagine like right? You talk to an elder person, like a adult person, and ask them for their marriage, right? So that's the thing over here, right? So maybe, right? So maybe that's the tradition kind of he broke, right? Um, so let's see what's going on over here. Let's read a little bit more, right? Where were we? So I asked directly because of the use of a go-between. Where is it? We have an understanding. Please don't judge my candidacy by the unseemliness of this proposal, right? I asked directly, right? I asked directly. So Tanya, that's probably what you're saying. I asked directly because the use of a go-between takes much time. So yes, Tanya, probably that's the thing, right? Like a go-between is Akira's here, maybe he should have an adult with him, right? Remember over here somewhere, she looks past him, right? Maybe she's looking for an adult, right? He came by himself, right? Imagine like Romeo coming to Juliet's house, right? And asking, hey, I want to marry Juliet, right? Wow. Right, what a controversy, right? Crazy. So that's a tradition he broke probably, right? In Japan, who knows what the tradition is? Either method comes down to the same thing, a matter of parental approval, right? So if you give your consent, I'll become Naomi's Yoshi, and there's an asterisk over here, right? A man who marries a woman of higher status and takes her family name. So he's probably going to become Mr. Akira uh, Fuji or whatever, right? His original name is Shinoda. So he's going to become like a kind of like, what we say, like he's going to live with her family or something, right? We'll live in the house of Fuji, right? Without your consent, I must go to America to secure a new home for my bride. So what he's saying is, right now in 1920, right? Let's say as an example, on June 22nd, right? Whatever. He's got an offer to go to Seattle. He wants to know if he can marry Naomi and take her with him, etc. right? Because it's an opportunity. He wants to know if he can go there or not, right? So that's the thing. Something is urgent. That's why he's come. Otherwise, he would have taken time. Maybe on a sunny day, he would have taken his parents and come visiting, right? Like bearing gift, like bringing gifts, etc. But without anything, he's just got his calling card, etc., and just came. All right. So now this is super important. Maybe they'll ask a question about this, right? But now the author is really opened up. Until here, this is all rubbish. I wouldn't call it rubbish, but and so far as the SAT is concerned, there's not much going on. This is where the thing starts. So eager to make his point, he'd been looking her he'd been looking her full in the face. So now is the first time he looks at her in the face. That's important, right? He's now become confident because maybe he loves this Naomi girl, and now he's like really got excited and wants to make a point. What's the point he wants to make? Abruptly, his voice turned gentle. I see I've startled you, right? So of course, obviously, she's the mom and she's startled. My humble apologies. I'll take no more of your evening. My address is on my card, right? If you don't wish to contact me, I'll reapproach you in 2 weeks' time. Very interesting. So even if she she ignores him, he says, I'm gonna come to you anyway. I'm come to you anyway, right? Because of course maybe he definitely loves this Naomi girl, right? Obviously he loves her. So until then, good night. So he's gone, right over here. He's gone. He bowed and left. Of course, guys, this is I'm explaining to you, but I think you should take probably something like 8 minutes, at least 8 minutes for the literature passage, because it should sink in your head. Remember what I mentioned over here. It should sink in your head. What's the name? That's obvious. Only 3 people here and the maid, so maybe 3.5 people here. The relationship between them, right? The relationship is Chie, Naomi, Akira, right? Take some time. I think you should practice. Keep in your mind, like make it 8 minutes or even 9 minutes is right. This passage, you should be getting confident about this. So anyway, so he bowed and left. So he's left. He's made his point quickly. Hey, Mrs. Fuji or whatever, right? Like Mrs. Chie, I want your daughter's hand in marriage. Whatever. Like he's probably a little bit immature because he doesn't know if she says yes or no, how to respond. He just wants to give her the information because he's maybe excited about going to Seattle, and he wants to know what happens if I get this, if I'm able to marry or not. Right? Clearly a bit immature, right? This is not how you approach someone. But anyway, he bowed and left, taking her ease with effortless grace, like a cat making off with a fish. Okay, whatever. This is just the SAT has to put this thing inside, right? Like it's a passage. This is what the author wants to write for some reason. Anyway, I don't understand why what is this? Like he just moved on, right? Like this probably okay, it's just a passage. So mother Chie heard Naomi's low voice and turned from the door. He has asked you. So now Naomi knows what's exactly going on. She was like very excited. That's the reason why she was sighing in the first place, right? She was maybe not sighing, there was this intake of air, right? So she was excited. This is what's going to happen now. She's come and she wants to know her mother's reaction, right? Mother, right? Has he asked you? So she wants to confirm if Mr. Akira has had the guts to actually come and tell all of his feelings to Chie, her mom, right? The sight of Naomi's clear eyes, her dark brows gave Chie strength. Fine. Okay, I don't know why, but maybe his hopes were preposterous. Okay, where did you meet such a fellow? Imagine he thinks he can marry the Fuji hair and take her to America all in the snap of his fingers. So she's almost like this language is like she's not taking him seriously, right? Like where do you find this guy, kind of, right? Like what is he, what kind of a system is he following, right? What kind of tactics are these, right? So she's like almost dismissive of him. She's dismissive of him because she thinks like how can her daughter even marry such a guy who doesn't have the understanding the culture of like what should be done in 1920s Japan, which is probably you should bring your parents, right? Like a go between kind of person over here that he mentions. So that's why she's excited, and she's waiting for Naomi's laughter because she thinks that's like she probably knows her daughter more than anybody else, and she's thinking Naomi's also gonna laugh. Ha, yeah, he's like just a guy I met and he thinks he loves me. But Naomi is silent, right? Naomi is silent, right? She stood a full half minute, looking straight into Chie's eyes. Okay, that's like 30 seconds. That's a lot of time, especially when your daughter's being asked for in marriage. Okay, so Chie is now a little bit serious. Finally, she is still expecting, where did you find him, right? Like, answer me. So I met him at my literary meeting, whatever. Naomi turned to go back in the house, then stopped. And then she stops. Stop is an important word. But is an important word. Suddenly an important word. Remember, all these words are super important. Okay. Mother, yes. This is her saying, this is Chie asking, and then I mean to have him, right, means I want to marry him too. So they're kind of like Akira and Naomi. They're pretty much decided they want to marry each other, right? They want to marry each other, and that's the end of it. Right, so Chie is left hanging in the air. She doesn't know. We don't know what's going on, right? So real quick, this is something that's going to go in your mind. Chie is the mom, Naomi is the daughter, Akira is the guy who loves Naomi, and Naomi in return loves him. They both know that he's going to come and meet Chie. Unfortunately, it was a dark, damp, rainy night when he met her, but he had to tell her that it's urgent, that he has to leave, and he wants to know if he can have Naomi as his wife. All right, so with that, we've finished reading the passage. Let's go and try to answer the questions over here. Okay, this has become a complete mess over here as always, but let's see how we can answer these questions real quick. Okay, let me put this in here. Why don't I just put all of this information. Okay, I'm just going to squeeze it to the top just a little bit. Okay, and if you cannot read it at all, let me know. There are a few places where I can take things out. Okay, so all right, so we're going to put stuff. Oops. We're going to put stuff over here, and we're going to start answering the questions. Okay, so remember, it could take 8 minutes or 9 minutes to answer this question, but remember, you have to read this passage. Okay, and it's fun. It's like kind of understanding a different culture. Right, they're not going to talk about like 2020 America, right? They're probably going to talk about a different culture, or an older, like a British, or an older US kind of thing. So like, kind of get used to it, right? You're going to be you're going to read these passages later in your life anyway. So might as well develop the skills for it. Okay, so which choice? So this whole thing, guys, is all about choice of elimination. Insofar as this passage is concerned. Okay, literary passages. The passage reading is difficult. The answers are easy. Okay, so yeah, try it. Well done, Rosie. Go for it. Well done, Jaylee, Shamini, nice. Lad, very good. Mohammed, excellent. Tanya, nice. Blessing, very good. Joel, great. Okay, so I'm going to move fast now. So which passage, which choice best describes what happens in the passage, right? One character argues. This is what I'm going to do, guys. I am going to find one word or two words, right? All right, yes, yeah, maybe hazmat suit for sure, right? I don't know about the sanitizer, but yes. Okay, so what am I saying? It made me lose my train of thought there, Vic. We're gonna find one or two words which are gonna. I know many of you got this, but I'm just gonna say this, right? One character argues. There's no arguing. There's no intrusion, right? So that goes away. One character receives a surprising request from another character. The surprising request is right over here, right? It's right over here. So I'm come to ask for Naomi's hand. So that's why this is a very possible answer. I would train you. I train you. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine, Shravani. So just watch the video again. But yeah, be involved in this, right? So one character reminisces about the choices that she had made over the years. Where's the years? There's no years over here, right? And reminisces means kind of like things about it. So that's gone. So this is how I kind of cancel it. This is a possible answer. What I do is there's usually two answers which are totally easy, super easy to eliminate. That's what I talked about previously as well. It's very easy. And then two are kind of, one is confusing and the one is the correct one. Okay, one character criticizes another character. There is an unexpected course of action here, right? But nobody's criticizing them, right? There, she just had making fun of him at some point in time. She's not criticizing him. Hey, why are you coming? She didn't say that. She didn't have the opportunity to criticize him. Maybe she would have, right? That's why B is the correct answer. Okay, so let's move on, guys. Very nice. I think most of you got this answer. Let's move on to the next passage. And even if you've done this passage, right, it's nice to kind of like talk about it. It's a popular passage. Like you can learn quite a few things just watching me read, probably, right? And by yourself, you'll develop a bit more confidence. Okay, so let's look at the next one. Developmental pattern. Okay, developmental pattern. How's the author developed it? Very good. Well done, Viola, Mohammed, Rosie, Jaylee, Lad. Superb. Okay, so careful analysis of a traditional practice Traditional practice there is for sure, but there's no careful analysis. The only analysis is there a go-between guy? Is there an adult? Is there an adult accompanying Akira? There was no adult, right? So careful analysis, I would put a small maybe, but not so much because there's no careful analysis, right? But maybe is the answer. Maybe it's the answer. Okay, a detailed depiction of a meaningful encounter. Yes, there's a super meaningful encounter right over here where he asked for her hand in marriage, right? For Naomi's hand in marriage. So this is a very strong maybe. A definitive response to a series of questions. What questions? Not many. Okay, so cancel this out. See how I'm canceling out this? This is of course, this is easy, but try to get in the habit of doing this so you get very confident of your answers even towards the end of the passage. A cheerful recounting of an amusing anecdote, right? There's no amusing anecdote. There is some amusement over here, right? She's having fun with her daughter a little bit, but there's no recounting. So that's clearly gone. And then because you've got these two, a careful analysis, you can cancel this out. There's no careful analysis. That's why B is the correct answer. Okay, great, great. Remember, it's a developmental pattern, right? Like how's it developing? Okay, so it's not, they're not analyzing any traditional practice. Yes, yes, Salim, yes, you can use that method as well. Well done, guys. So let's move on. Remember, every single word in the question is important, is what I'm trying to tell you. Every word is important in what you're reading because you're like a detective. Okay, that's why it's called the evidence-based reading writing, right? You got to find the evidences to cancel out the incorrect choices. Okay, just find all of the evidences in every single choice to cancel out and be super confident. Okay, this is why I'm going to cancel out, or this is why I'm going to cross out, why I'm going to eliminate the choices. Okay, so now this is a vocab question. We've talked about these vocab type questions in the previous, probably it was previous week or something, right? Try it. Whoops. So line 1 and line 65 directly, right? So where is it? Akira came directly, breaking all tradition. That itself should probably give us the hint. And then in 65, I asked directly. Okay. Great, great. Well done, guys. Okay, so Vlad, Rosie, Jaylee, Viola, Mohammed, Tanya, Vic. All right, people, the remaining people who want to answer, yeah, take your time. But as used in line 1 and this, directly most means, okay, so the way you're going to do this is go to directly. Akira came directly, breaking all tradition. And I know you guys are already talking about this tradition. There's this tradition in Japan, whatever the tradition is, he came directly breaking it, right? Breaking it, okay, and what's the tradition here, right? I asked directly because, then again, this directly over here, I asked directly, what is the tradition is going to be explained here? Because the use of a go-between takes much time, right? So the go-between, I know it's a bit of a difficult thing, but the go-between means, right, a person who is with Akira has a more authority to come and accompany him and ask her Chie in the proper way to ask for ask for Naomi's hand in marriage, right? So, but anyway, let's look at this. So that means like with someone, right? So he comes without someone, right? So frankly, maybe, confidently, no. Precision, what does that mean? Without mediation is the correct answer. Frankly, could be correct in some ways, but without mediation is the actual tradition, right? So they're talking about tradition. That's why it's correct here. Remember, the real the first meaning of directly is actually frankly, right? That's what, when you, without context, directly makes sense. But here, it doesn't make much sense, okay? So these are so far so good. These passages are nice. Now maybe this one could be interesting. So let's try the next one. Yes, because the use of a go-between takes much time. Exactly right. So the go-between is the guy, he came without that guy, and that's what directly means, without mediation. Okay, now try 4. Yeah, again, try to find the words that are which you can cancel out, right? So which reaction does Akira most fear, right? He's afraid of something that she is going to do. What is his fear coming? Where does his fear arise from? Why is he afraid? Why is he afraid? Maybe he's thinking that she won't give him his, like, Naomi's hand in marriage, right? For some reason, she might be a big obstacle. So she might consider his proposal inappropriate. Yes, totally, because he came directly, right? So yes, totally a big maybe. right? She will mistake his earnestness for immaturity. He is clearly immature in our mind, at least in my mind. He's quite immature, and maybe she as well. But that's not his fear. Okay, so let's cancel that out. She will consider his unscheduled visit an imposition. Yes, in a certain way, because she was already cozy, right? So this is another maybe, and she will underestimate the sincerity of his emotions. I don't think so. Okay, so out of these two, right, maybe he's most feared, right? Even if she considers it an imposition, that's okay, right? But the more important thing is, right, he's asking about the proposal, right? And so the proposal is the most important piece, and that's why A is the correct answer, right? That's how I would think about it. Okay, let's move on to the next question. And I know we've got another passage, right? So I don't want to spend time. Usually I would spend more time. Like, remember last time we did like a whole passage for like 70 minutes, but this one is going to be super easy, and this is actually a paired passage. So let's look at this piece over here as well. Okay, um, paired passages are like a double kind of like, I wouldn't say much about it, but be careful about paired passages. If you could get both of them wrong, right? So okay, so try this one. Which choice provides the best evidence? Okay, and the question was, what does he most fear, right? What does he most fear about? What does he most fear from Chie? And he fears that she will consider his proposal inappropriate. Okay, which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous one, right? So let's see, his voice, right over here, 33. So his voice over here, his voice was soft, refined. So he's afraid. He's afraid that she's going to consider his proposal inappropriate. So his voice was soft, refined. This doesn't say anything. It's just describing him, right? 49 to 51 is over here. You know how children speak so earnestly, so hurriedly, in an adult's mind. So maybe, right, this thing is thinking of Akira. And I'm trying to show you how the SAT might confuse you. This piece is talking about Akira being immature. Okay, it is indeed talking about Akira being immature in some way in Chie's mind. But what they're asking for, guys, is what is in Akira's mind, right? From Akira's perspective, he's not immature. From Chie's perspective, he's immature. But from Akira's perspective, so this is everything from Akira's point of view, right? So this is correct from the author's point of view, from Chie's point of view, but not from Akira's point of view. Okay, so that's why this is gone, because it's not Akira's point of view. Okay, 63, 64 is right over here. So please, 63 is right over here. We have an understanding. Please don't judge my candidacy by the unseemliness of this proposal, right? So inappropriateness. So there you go. All right, I could have done this faster, but I just want to explain this. So this is clearly right, right? This is wrong. So let's move on. I want to move on to the other parts over here. Let's move to the next question. Okay. Okay, and then after this, we're gonna do another passage. We probably will do it a bit faster. Um, I do want to do two passages. Maybe it'll take maybe another 10 minutes or so to cover this, but we should probably do two, both of them literature passages. Okay, try this one, please. Once again, it's Akira addressing Chie, okay? And try to eliminate the choices which are kind of harder, right? So in the passage, Akira addresses Chie with what? Affection, not Chie, right? Maybe a little bit, maybe a small maybe, right? Maybe I missed something. He's actually loves Naomi, right? So affection for Chie, maybe as a mother-in-law, maybe a little bit. So this is strange. Objectivity, but not complete impartiality. This is kind of like strange. Objectivity. it's like objectivity means like he's a very rational person, right? But here he's actually a little bit irrational, right? So not very objective. Amusement. He's clearly not amusing. In fact, Chie is amused. Chie is amused, and right, but Chie is amused. So that's why this is incorrect, right? This is how people might get confused if they read too fast. He might be okay. So anyway, the last one, respect, yes, but not utter deference, right? So which means he's like, so before. Remember, he has the guts to actually approach Chie. So therefore, he has the guts. So utter different deference, right? Deference means like he's like, as you know, right? And by the way, if you, I've got some words if you want them. I think for people who are taking the test in like 1 or 2 or 3 weeks time, it doesn't make sense to do any vocab. It's too late. But for those who are taking their test maybe in like 2 or 3 months time, email me and I'll send you the list. I'll send the list to everybody, but I don't think it makes sense to do any vocab. But anyway, you know what deference means. I hope. Right, so he is like kind of like not fully kind of like thinking that he's below her, right? He opened her his face and he started asking some important questions, especially marrying her daughter, right? So this is the correct answer. All right, so hopefully everybody got it. Hopefully this makes sense. Affection but not genuine love is not as important as respect but not utter deference. Okay. Okay, so let's move on, folks. And if you have any questions about these passages, let me know. Let's move on. 7. Okay, take your time. The main purpose of the first paragraph, right? And the first paragraph is just this piece, guys. And I'm going to clean up the mess over here. The first paragraph. What's the main purpose of the first paragraph? It's right over here. Just this piece over here, okay? Only this part. Whoops. Sorry. Okay, so main purpose is just over here. Okay, what is the main purpose of the first paragraph? Describe a culture. There is a culture of something, but let's read it one more time. Akira came directly, breaking all tradition, right? So yeah, they're talking about a culture, right? What was that it? Had he followed form? Had he asked his mother to speak to his father to approach a go-between, which he had been more receptive? So actually, it looks like he's like actually, thinking to himself. It's kind of like a movie flashback, right? Like a guy's thinking, "Oh, should I have done this?" And then it kind of like the movie starts kind of like that, right? So this is like the fourth wall is opened, and this is like Akira just thinking, should I have asked my mom or dad to come with me, right? Heck, maybe I made a mistake. So he's analyzing a reaction, so that's why this is correct. You can clearly see questioning a suggestion is wrong. He's not criticizing anything. Maybe this could be a bit, maybe. Once again, two choices, possible answers. One of them is like a very tricky answer, right? It is describing some kind of a tradition, right? That you need to bring your mom or dad to ask these important questions. But more importantly is he's not describing anything, right? The author is not describing anything. Akira is thinking about it. Okay, so that's why this is gone. Okay, that's why the other choice was gone. Okay, let's look at this question. And the other one, I think I'm going to move faster on it. I think I'm just going to solve it myself. Okay. So I won't wait for you. I think you should solve it by yourself. The next one that we're going to do. Otherwise, we're going to, okay. As used in line 2, right? Form nearly means. Okay. So had he followed form? Okay. Great. Looks like you guys know this form. Had he followed form? So once again, this is like a vocab context type of question. Had he followed form by now? Like we're talking about tradition, right? So had he followed the tradition, right? Had he followed tradition? Remember, the most common definition of form is appearance, right? What is the form of a chemical molecule, right? What is the form of a mathematical equation? That's why that clearly gives it away. This is clearly wrong. Usually, the most important word is most probably the incorrect one anyway. Okay, so custom makes sense. Structure, nature doesn't make sense. So custom is the correct one. I think most of you are getting it. Okay, now let's move on over here. Okay, let me move on, let me get rid of this. Okay, let's use this one. Okay, line 32. Why does he say his meeting with Chie is a matter of urgency? Okay, I've come with a matter of urgency. Yeah, that looks like most of you are getting it, right? Why is it a matter of urgency? Looks like, right, like we talked about it earlier, he's got some opportunity over here. I've had an opportunity to go to America as a dentist, right? And he wants to know if he can get the Naomi's hand in marriage, right? He fears his own parents, nothing about parents. He worries that Naomi will reject him. Not really. She actually wants to marry him. He has been offered an attractive job in another country. Yes, big yes. He knows that she is unaware of his feelings. Yes, he knows that she's unaware, right? But it's not a matter of urgency. So it is true that she's unaware, but that's not a matter of urgency. So this is a very, very easy one to eliminate the choices and get this as your correct answer. Okay. This is the speed at which you need to go. Okay, so let's get rid of this. Let's move on to the next one, which is 10. Okay, so we're talking about literature passages. I know it's 9:16 over here in New York, but let's do one more passage. And you feel free to go, drop by. You're going to get the recording anyway. I know you have tight schedules, right? So, but other people, I would like at least hang on for like another time, for some time. Okay, all right. So number 10, evidence for the previous one, right? And the previous question was like, what is the urgency? And we realized that the Seattle thing. Okay. So 39 over here, right? Where is it? I don't want to trouble you. Whatever. That's clearly off, right? 39 to 42. 39 starts from here. Normally, I would approach you more properly, but I've received word of a position. I've gotten an opportunity to go to America, right? Clearly, the best answer. I'm just going to cancel these out in the interest of time. Usually, you should read a little bit of this so that it helps you to answer the next question, okay? And actually, in fact, that's the last question of this, okay? So thanks, guys, for your time. Let's now do the next one. I know I should have told you it's a slightly longer session. Feel free at any time to log out, right? But I think we should do this other one. It's another interesting passage, different. You're gonna like the previous passage more than this passage, okay? This passage is from the 1800s. And not only that, it's written by a British person, probably a British person. So but let's see how it goes. Usually you have to read the passage again. I'm telling you, take 8 minutes, take 10 minutes to read the passage, okay? The language, otherwise you're wasting your time. If you don't understand what's going on and you're just saying, oh, okay, maybe I'll just do something and then, I'll be able to guess the answer. Maybe you won't be able to do it, okay? So give me 1 second. I'm just gonna pull these pieces inside the snaps and then we'll start the passage. Give me just 1 quick second and let's get going. Okay, so let's get going with this passage. I hope it's this passage. So this one, I'm just gonna solve it marathon, like real fast. Just see how, right, like just the answers. If you want, feel free to solve it, but I'm not gonna wait for your answers because we just should move on. Okay, so here it is. And later you can watch the recording and try it yourself. Okay, so here's the passage. I'm gonna start reading right now. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna read it at a speed. Okay, so let's get going. Let me just change the ink over here. Okay, so this passage is from Charlotte Bronte, right? The professor, no real information is given here. Big deal. Okay, no man likes to acknowledge that he has made a mistake in the choice of his profession, right? And every man worthy of the name will roll long against wind and tide before he allows himself to cry out, "I am baffled." I'm going to stop over here. So no man likes to acknowledge that he has made a mistake in the choice of profession. So something's wrong. He didn't choose the correct profession. Something's wrong. He's unhappy with his job. Okay, that's all it's saying. Unhappy with my job. submits to be floated passively, whatever. From the first week of my residence in X blank, I felt my occupation irksome. So my job, I hate my job. The thing itself, what is it? What's the job? The work of copying and translating business letters, right? It's 1850s, whatever they do. I don't care. Was a dry and tedious task enough, right? He's already bored with it. But had that been all, I should long have borne with the nuisance. So this job is a nuisance for him, and he would have taken it like it's okay. He would have been okay with it. But I'm not of an impatient nature. So I've been okay working at it. Okay, so what's bothering him? I'm waiting for the Charlotte lady to tell me what it is, for Miss Bronte to tell me what it is, right? And influenced by the double desire of my getting a living. So okay, and justifying to myself that so I want to be a professional is all he's saying, right? I make my money. I'm a professional. I don't care what the job is. It's a little bit boring, tedious, whatever. I should have endured in silence the rust and cramp of my best faculties, which means my intelligence is wasted here. It's rusted and cramped. Okay, I should not have whispered even inwardly that I long for liberty, because as a job, like he's almost like in modern slavery, right? That's what he thinks. I should have pent in every sigh by which my heart might have ventured to intimate its distress under the closeness, smoke, whatever. Like I'm just glazing over here, right? My eyes are just going through this, and a panting desire for freer and fresher scenes, right? This is what I understand. This is what I'm gonna underline. Okay, so he's saying like he's like caught up in this crazy job, doesn't like it, but still he would have liked it if it was still boring, but something's coming up. I should have set up the image of duty, perseverance, which we know what these words are, right? What is the fetish of perseverance? Whatever. Duty, perseverance. So that's my job, right? As a professional in my small bedroom. And now this is changing. Mrs. King's lodging. So he lives over here, right? It might be handy, come in handy later. And they too have been my household gods. Household gods. What are my household gods? Which means my strengths, my sense of duty and perseverance, right? From which my darling, my cherished in like imagination, right? So imagination, the tender and the mighty should never either by softness or have severed me, right? So imagination is something he's missing a little bit in his life right now. He's got duty and perseverance by his side. Okay, but this was not all. Now once again we encountered this transition word but over here, right? So what are they saying? But this was not all. The antipathy, right, which means the kind of like a little bit of a hostility somewhere, which had sprung up between myself and my employee. So once again, encounter the transition word but, right? However, although, suddenly all of these words, right? This is the most important part. This was not all. The semicolon, the antipathy which had sprung up between myself and my employers, striking deeper root and spreading denser shade daily, excluded me from every glimpse of the sunshine of life, and I began to feel like a plant growing in humid darkness out of the slimy wall. So like it's kind of like the shade, right? There's no sunlight. Usually there's sunlight and people are happy, right? But there's sun, but there's shade, and like it's all very gloomy inside this well that he's made to live, and it's a metaphor for his job, right? So here all he's saying is my job sucks, but I have a sense of duty and perseverance. And here he's telling us like there's something going on between me and my employer, right? That's all that this passage is talking about. Half the passage, excuse me, half the passage is just a total waste of time until here. He's just saying, I hate my job and my employer the worst, even more. I hate my employer even more. Why? So explaining now, like antipathy is the only word which can express the feeling. Edward Crimm's word, that's the name. You can just write EC, that's the first person. And of course, there's the author. So again, this is the relationship between these guys, right? What's the motive, right, of the anger? We're going to find out, like, what's he talking about? What's the whole reason? What's going on? This Ed Crimsworth had for me a feeling in a great measure involuntary, and which was liable to be excited by every minute the most trifling movement, right? So this guy's angry. Why is Edward Crimsworth angry at our unnamed hero? It's because my southern accent annoyed him. One, the degree of education evinced in my language, so he's using some good language, irritated him. My punctuality, industry, and accuracy fixed his dislike, right? And all of these things. So he hates him because he's a true professional, kind of. At least the author thinks author thinks I'm a professional, and this guy hates me because he's probably not a professional or whatever, right? So, and finally, also he feared that I too one day should make a successful tradesman, right? Which means I am working under him, but at one point I might learn enough that I might become the sun, and he's like I outshine him, right? So I become very powerful. So that's what the person, his current employer, is scared of, right? So had I been in anything inferior to him, or in any way inferior to him, he would not have hated me so thoroughly. But I knew all that he knew, and what was worse, right? So what he's saying is like, I'm not in any way inferior, I'm superior to him. That's all he's saying. I'm fully superior to him. So that's why he hates me. If I was in any way inferior, that would have been okay, but no, I'm fully superior. He suspects, right? And what was worse, he suspected that I caved the padlock of silence on mental wealth, in which he was no sharer. Means intellectually, um, our author is keeping quiet on certain interesting things. He doesn't want to talk about it, right? He doesn't want to tell anything like the reality of things around them to his employer. He's always like, okay, whatever. He doesn't want to have any intellectual discussion with him of any sort. If he could have only placed me in a ridiculous or mortifying position, he would have forgiven me much. But so he's saying that he wants to put him in the ed this ed he wants to put the author in a ridiculous or mortifying position, but he would have forgiven me much. But I was guarded by three faculties: caution, tact, and observation. So you see this, like you might have read this before, right? Like these uppercase kind of words. These are the various qualities that he's calling upon himself. There's duty, there's perseverance, there's imagination. Who knows, right? Maybe they asked the question on this: a caution, tact, and observation. And then maybe there's one more. Maybe I missed it. I don't know. But I'm going on reading it. I'm going to go on and read the rest of it. I was guarded by these three faculties. So he's cautious, he's tactful, and he's observant, right? And prowling and prying, as was Edward's malignity, means his ill will, right? It could never baffle the lynx eyes of these my natural sentinels. Okay, so he's very alert, as all he's saying about Edward hurting him in some way, or trying to find a fault in some way, or attacking him in some way. Okay, we don't know what it is, but he's super alert. And this lynx is like a cat type, some kind of like a wild animal, which according to him has very sharp eyes, very alert on the predator, right? So day by day, his malice watch my tact, which means the guy Ed is watching how tactful he is, right? And hoping it would sleep. So he's our the hero is the Ed is thinking that the hero might kind of at one time not be as alert, and then he can pounce on him. Maybe in some way he could frame him in some way. I don't know what he could do, but that's what the hero is saying. I would say the hero is a bit paranoid, right? But who knows what the hero actually is thinking? But this is how it is. And prepared to steal snake-like on its slumber, which means like he attacks him, right? So this hero's the lynx animal, and this guy is like a snake animal. Okay, I like this metaphor of some sort, right? On its slumber, but attacked. If it be genuine, never sleeps. Okay, so he's getting a bit arrogant over here. Like I'm so tactful. I never sleep. I'm fully alert. Okay, so great. Good for him. Okay, so I have received my now. This is the moving over here, right? I have now. This is a new paragraph. Like sudden shift, right? Okay, whatever. He's like, for now he's saying, all he's saying is, I hate my job. This Ed hates me because of course I am more professional, I'm smarter. And the third thing is like, I'm a better tradesman. I could become a better tradesman than him. And he's so Ed is so quote unquote stupid that he cannot even like attack me because I'm cautious, right? I'm tactful, I'm observant. He's a snake and I'm the lynx. Wow, what arrogance. Okay, great. So he's the smartest guy apparently, this hero. But let's move on. So I have received my first quarter's wages. Right now, this is a new thing altogether. I have received my first quarter's wages and was returning to my lodgings. Remember, the lodgings are over here somewhere, Mrs. King's lodgings, right? So he's returning back, possessed heart and soul, with the pleasant feeling that the master who had paid me grudged every penny of that hard-earned money. So he got his first quarter's wages, right? He got the money. The master, the guy, Mr. Ed, he's not very happy to pay him, but whatever he paid, and he earned every single cent of it, every single penny of it, right? I had long ceased to regard Mr. Crimsworth as my brother. okay, whatever that means, right? He was a hard grinding master. So before he considered him as his brother, right? He did consider Mr. Crimswood as his brother, but now, no, now he's just a master, just a weird guy, okay? Just a weird, typical employer who just like the man kind of, right? Just wants to be a tyrant, right? He's the man now, just bothering him all the time, making him unhappy, right? Thoughts not varied but strong, uh, occupied my mind. Okay, so now he's like he's daydreaming. Well, he's on his way home from work now. He's on his way home from work, and he's thinking, this guy used to be my friend, but now he's a master, like a real grinding master, right? And now he's thinking, he's daydreaming. Two voices spoke within me again and again. They uttered the same monotonous phrases. What were those phrases? One said, William. Okay, so now we have this guy's name, William. That's this guy's name. All right, William, your life is intolerable. The other said, what can you do to alter it? So people are like kind of like, he's having this inner dialogue amongst themselves, like you also will be having right in your life. Your life is intolerable. What can you do to alter it? I walked fast. Okay, so that's what it's saying. Your life is alterable, and maybe now this whole passage, I don't know, maybe what the actual author wants to say is now he's going to change the job, right? Before he was some guy and looks like he might become a professor. I don't know. I haven't read the book, and I won't ever. So William, your life is intolerable. The other, what can you do to alter it? I walked fast, for it was a cold, frosty night in January. And this I'm reading carefully because this is the ending, right? There has to be a question about this. So as I approached my lodgings, my house, I turned from a general view of my affairs, which means this job dissatisfaction, to the particular speculation as to whether my fire would be out. The fire is in his house, right? Like these hurt kind of thing, right? Like it's winter, right? So the fireplace, right? If it's going to be out, he doesn't even know. There's some unpredictability about this fire. Maybe he doesn't have enough money. Maybe the person who's managing, who's like the person who's in charge, the super is not so efficient, etc. Like looking towards the window of my sitting room. So now he's approaching and he's looking at his house, the sitting room. I saw no cheering red gleam, right? Which means there was no fire. So even more unhappy, right? Job is not so good. The manager's boss is out to get him, and now his house as well, there's no fire in it. He has to go, and maybe I don't know how they set the fire. Maybe there's some way, right? He has to arrange for it to get the fire started, etc. It's super cold, it's frosty, etc. Okay, so with that, I'm going to start reading the passage. I'm going to start working on this piece here. So you see, right, like the thinking process, it should take, I would say, don't worry if it takes you 10 minutes, because you should do it very thoroughly. The understanding is super easy. All it's saying is, I'm dissatisfied. I am a genius. My employer is angry at me because I am a genius, and at least I'm better intellectually than him. I'm more professional, and I'm alert that he's out to get me. Maybe he's true, right? And then here he's saying, Mr. Crimsworth used to be my friend, but not anymore. And then eventually he's saying that after this, I want to leave. I want to leave my job, and then I don't know what he's going to do. And then eventually, right over here, he's saying that now my house is not in a great state either, right? So probably he's a single guy. Who knows? All right. So let's move to answering the questions now, and I'm going to answer them directly. I'm not going to wait. So here's the first one. Okay, so the answering the question should take you like 5-6 minutes, right? So let's try it. Okay, so which choice best summarizes the passage? Okay, so I'm going to start reading this passage thing over here. Feel free if you want to answer it, but here it is. So which choice best summarizes the passage? A character describes his dislike for his new job and considers the reasons why. Okay, that's possible, right? Dislike truly dislikes it and considers the reasons why. Okay, two characters, right, employed in the same office become increasingly competitive. Competitive? No, not competitive at all. Not competitive at all, right? They're not competitive. One is an employer, and one is like almost like a tyrant, like pushing the Mr. William down. Ed is pushing William down. So that's why this is gone. A young man regrets privately a choice that he defends publicly. Nothing is said about public. It's all in his mind. Okay, so that's gone. and then a new employee expresses optimism, then frustration and despair. Yes, frustration, despair, but no optimism. There is no optimism. It starts on a pessimistic note. That's why this is gone, and A is the correct answer. Okay, let's move on. Can you see like how fast? And of course you guys are answering it. The reason, maybe you've seen this passage before, but at least for some of you who haven't seen this passage before, right, reading the passage is super important. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Okay, the main purpose of the opening sentence of the passage, right? The opening sentence is right over here. What is it? No man. Let me actually read this. No man likes to acknowledge that he has made a mistake in the choice of his profession. Okay, great. So to establish the narrator's perspective on a controversy, right? What is the controversy? What's the controversy here? Is there a controversy here? I don't think so. Okay, maybe there is. Okay, there's no controversy here. To provide context useful in understanding the narrator's emotional state, maybe, right? So this is a possible one. Offer a symbolic representation of Edward Crimson's plight. That's clearly wrong. That's nothing here, right? And contrast the narrator's good intentions with his malicious conduct, right? So is there a contrast? I don't think so. So there's no real contrast between the good intentions and the bad intentions, right? So think about it, right? So contrast the narrator's good intentions with his. This is gone. I would think between these two establishes the narrator's perspective on a controversy. There's no controversy. There's a narrator's perspective, but still, what they're talking about is like a general idea that sometimes people don't want to accept that their job is not fit for them, right? So this makes perfect sense. So that's why B is the correct answer. Remember, the controversy is the one that really, what's the controversy? Everything kind of makes sense. It's a little bit of a vague choice A, but that's why it's gone, because there's no controversy here. Okay. Once again, pick out the words that don't make sense and then cross them out. Okay. Moving on to the next one. Okay. Right. Let's move to 3 here. Okay, great. Wow. Guys are getting some answers over here. Well done. Well done. Okay. And guys, thanks again. I appreciate it. Like 2 lit passages in a day. Wow. Um, that's excellent. Okay. So, okay. Now, during the course of the first paragraph, the narrator's focus shifts from. Okay, so let's see, where's the first paragraph end? Okay, so this is this. Wow, it ends actually it ends over here. I put a line over here, and see, this is my habit. I kind of like put a line over here when I think the piece ends or the paragraph ends. So right over here, right? So during the course of the first paragraph, the narrator's focus shifts from a recollection of a past confidence to acknowledgement of self-doubt. There's no such contrast. It's all pessimistic. A reflection on his expectations of his life as a tradesman to his desire for another job, maybe, right? Generalization about job dissatisfaction to the specifics of his own situation. Yes, generalization about job dissatisfaction, right? Right over here, this is general, right? It's very general about every single man and woman, right? They don't want to accept that their job, what they're doing, is not fit for them. They're not happy. And then he goes on, oh, me too, kind of, right? I too, like, I'm having this problem. So that's why this is a strong yes. And then evaluation of factors that make him unhappy to identification. Yes, factors make him unhappy, but they're starting over here in a bit. Like, the most important factors are over here. There are some over here as well. To identification of alternatives, right? There are no alternatives here. Okay, it is an evaluation of factors. Half of them are here and half of them are here, but it's not making him identify any alternatives. It's some of it is over here, right, but not over here, and that's why this is gone. So that's why this is the correct answer. A reflection on his expectations of his desire for another job. Yeah, I don't think so. Okay, this piece is exactly talking about this. This is like every man feels his job is not as, or refuses to acknowledge that he's made a mistake, and then I made a mistake. Okay, with that, let's move on to the next one. Okay. Okay, the references to shade and darkness at the end of the first paragraph mainly have what effect? So references to shade and darkness have what effect, right? So end of the paragraph is over here. Shade and darkness are over here, right? Darkness. So what is it? I'll read this a bit. The antipathy which had sprung in between myself and my employer, striking deeper root and spreading dense shade daily, right? So he's here, his employer's here, and there's the shade or gloom all over them, excluded me from every glimpse of the sunshine of my life. The sun is over here, right? I began to feel like a plant, right? He feels like he is in a well, right? Like unhappy. Okay, so they evoke the narrator's sense of dismay. Very true, right? How about this one? They reflect the narrators, right? Mr. Williams' sinister thoughts. He doesn't have any sinister thoughts. He just is like he thinks himself to be much better than his employer, right? They capture the narrator's fear of confinement, possible because he's saying like I feel like a plant growing in humid darkness out of the slimy walls of a wall. So yes, he's in a well. So we've got two choices now, right? And they reveal the narrator's longing for rest. What rest? No rest. He's not tired of any in any way. Okay. Who's following the crowd? Let me see what answers you guys are getting. I'm just railing on over here, but okay. So let's see. So you got A or C. Okay. So now let's look at it. They evoke the narrator's sense of dismay. Dismay is kind of like unhappiness, dejected feelings, right? Yes, they are this gloominess plus himself feeling like a wallflower, like over here, right? Kind of like unhappy. Yes, they capture the narrator's fear of confinement. So the narrator might feel confined, right? But you're reading too much into it probably if you think this one, right? The narrator is not scared of the confinement. The narrator is generally unhappy. Okay, so I would say maybe many people, if you choose C, I wouldn't blame you. It's a very confusing one, even for me, but this one is the correct answer, I feel, because it's more about his super dissatisfaction with his job. Okay, he's not saying I'm confined, like how can we say it, like let's say in the US, right? People if they don't have like a visa, they're confined, right? If they're having some green card problems, they're confined, they have to work with someone, right? That's kind of like modern slavery. Like you know only one thing, there's a lid on top of where you are, you cannot go out. That is the feeling of confinement. Here he's free to leave his job. He doesn't have a fear of being confined. There is a little bit of a fear which is said over here, but he's free to leave his job. That's why they're just saying he's just unhappy, right? The shade daily, it's that's what the interpretation is. Okay, so well done for those who read into this. Once again, the narrator is not having any sinister thoughts. Okay, you might think the darkness, etc., is kind of like the dark feeling, like the like a dark night kind of feeling. I don't know why you guys are thinking this way. Email me if you still think that answer is correct, but I don't think the answer is correct. Okay. But think about it, these questions, the dark, etc., maybe I don't know why you feel like, again, I'm asking you, email me if you have want to clarify it. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, the passage indicates that Ed's behavior was mainly caused by, okay, impatience with his narrator's high spirits. No high spirits have been talked of. Scorn of the narrator's humble background, not talked about. Indignation of the narrator's rash actions, not talked about. Jealousy of the narrator's apparent superiority. Every single word makes sense. Okay, D is the correct answer. Okay, I've got to move on, guys. And of course you've got the recording, so you watch it again, right? If you're having questions, but this is how you should be doing it. Once again, guys, I've told you already. Where's it gone? Is it over here? There's names, right? Ed and William, relationship, employer employee, motives, right? Employer hates the employee thinks he's super smart and contemplates leaving his job. Okay, plus at home he's a single guy. Okay, so maybe he'll who knows why she wrote that. It's probably because the author wrote it. Maybe she wants to show like he's a single guy, whatever, I don't know, I'm just guessing. Okay, the yes, these questions are actually slightly easier, right, than the previous ones. I don't know what you mean, Tanya. The questions are kind of these questions are similar. Okay, great. So if you think they're similar, um, good. Like, so you're liking these then. Okay, so it's making sense. You're probably able to answer it well then. The passage indicates that when the narrator began working for Ed, he viewed this guy, Ed, as a harmless rival. He never thought of him as a rival, right? So he never thought of him as a rival. Sympathetic ally. I don't know if he thought of him as a sympathetic guy, but maybe, right? An ally, perceptive judge, no. A demanding mentor. When he thinks about him as a demanding mentor. So you've got two choices here now, right? He could be a mentor, but he never actually even thinks of him as a mentor, really, maybe at the start. But remember what they're saying, when the narrator began working, right? When he began working, not when he's worked. Okay, so we've got sympathetic ally and demanding mentor. So both of them could work. Okay, demanding mentor or sympathetic ally. But be careful now. You've got to your rescue this particular piece. Looks like B. You guys are saying it's B. Okay. Yes, he's a sympathetic ally. Maybe the way you can think about it is demanding mentor for sure, but later, right? Later he becomes a demanding mentor. So at the start, how does he think of him, right? Maybe at the start he's thinking of him as a bit of a better person. So let's see what that answer looks like. Okay, so um, okay, let's look at these choices. These are, so we haven't answered 6 yet. At least that's how I would do it, right? Because I haven't found any proof of it yet, why he's a sympathetic ally, okay? So let's look at it this way, okay? Which choice provides the best, and I'm going to 7 now because it's a paired passage, right? Then we'll come back and see what happens. Okay, which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous question? So remember, there's only two things. Either he's a mentor or he's an ally, which means a friend, right? So let's look at it. The antipathy, okay, so the antipathy of something, right, to life. So 28 to 31, 28 to 31. The antipathy which had sprung up between myself and my employer, striking deeper. Okay, we just read this, right? Deeper root, etc., spreading denser shade daily, excluded me from every glimpse of the sunshine of life, and I began to feel like a. Okay, so this is just his dismay, right? He's not even talking about his employer. He's just saying, I fight with my employer, or I just not happy without it. So this doesn't even talk about either a mentor or an ally, right? The next one, my southern. That's 30, or right over here. My southern accent annoyed him. The degree of education evinced irritated him, right? Not talking about mentor or ally, right? Gone. 54, 56. Day by day did his malice watch. Okay, so here, day by day did his malice watch my tact, hoping that I would sleep and prepare. So this is like he's trying to attack him like a snake, right? And this guy's like a snake in the eagle's eye. I don't know if you guys seen the movie, but kind of reminds me of this, right? So so there's a snake kind of thing. He's trying to just take advantage of. Ed is trying to take advantage of William, right? So nothing about these guys. So I don't know. Let's see. The last one, 61, 62 is over here, right? I have long ceased to regard Mr. Crimswood as my brother. So there you go, right? He was a hard grinding master. He was a hard grinding master, right? So this is what I had long ceased. So what's going on is right now, if this is a present, he's saying now he's a hard grinding master, but before he was an ally, right? Before he was an ally, a friend, right? Usually that's what happens, right? When you start working for someone, you like them. That's the reason why you work with them, right? At the start, you work with someone because you feel they're nice, kind of. That's what he's saying. He thought he was my, I thought of him as my brother, and now I have stopped regarding him as my brother. Okay, so before he thought he was on a good relationship with him, right? And now he's just a grinding master. Now, like, he's a grinding master, right? So that's why clearly you got D. At least you got D, right? And now let's go back and see which one it was. It was a mentor or ally, right? So demanding. So it's all over here, right? I've long seized this guy to be my brother. So initially I did think of him to be my brother. I don't see any sympathetic over here, but I don't see like a demanding mentor. But remember, when the narrator began working, right? So that's why this is the correct, because he didn't think of him as a demanding mentor and not a mentor at all, actually, right? So a master. So that's why B is the correct answer. I know this is confusing. Even if you got B or D, both of them, you should congratulate yourself, because I think you're good at the process of elimination. Okay, so B is the correct one here, because before he thought of him as a brother. Now he just thinks of him as a grinding master. Okay, and someone who hates him. Okay, so that's why this is correct. No word has been talked about mentor. Okay, maybe he was. We shouldn't read too much into the passage. Okay. Okay, let's look at number 7. Wow, this always gets to be long. Okay, that 7 is done actually. My bad. So at least let's feel good, right? Like at least you got the 7, right? So yeah, of course you're not gonna get everything. Like what do you want? 800 out of 800 in reading. I would say like keep your expectations a little bit, modest, right? Yeah, I'm gonna make 2 or 3 mistakes in literature, but at least I'm gonna get all of like that. That's good enough. Okay. At the end of the second paragraph, at the end of the second, so this is the first one. This is the second. This is the end of the second paragraph, right? This is the third one. The comparisons of abstract qualities of a lynx, okay, to a snake, mainly have the effect of. So let's read that over here. It could never baffle the lynx eyes of these my natural sentiments. So he has got these eyes which are lynx eyes. Okay, his eyes are lynx eyes. Okay, and they're kind of watching the snake, right? So he's the lynx, ever alert, and the other guy is the snake, ever trying to um, sneakily come upon him when his eyes are closed. In other words, when he's asleep. Okay, when he's asleep, the snake wants to come to him. Okay, so what is it saying? Okay, contrasting two hypothetical courses of action. There are two things here, but they are neither hypothetical nor courses of action. Okay, they are just two conflicting things, two kind of things working with each other. Okay, conveying the ferocity of a resolution. Yeah, it does sound ferocious, right? It does sound ferocious, but there's no resolution, guys. So remember, you got to cancel out. I teach these things one-on-one to people, right? They always will jump to the correct answer, but I think if you train yourself to cancel things out, just cancel it, cancel it, cancel it, you will reduce a lot of errors. Okay, suggesting the likelihood of an altercation. There's no altercation here. This is like a metaphor, right? This is a metaphor over here. I am the lynx and he is the Ed is the Crimsworth is the snake. Okay, so that's why this is gone. There's gonna be no altercation. Right? Maybe the Ed could just frame him. Right? There's could no altercation. Maybe he could just say, "Oh, right," like just fire him in some way, illustrating the nature of an adversarial relationship. Yes, animals, these two animals are fighting against each other, right? So that's why this makes sense, right? You might be confused by this nature, like this is already a nature kind of thing going on in, right, wildlife nature, but this actually makes sense to me. So that's why D is the correct answer. Okay, and if you have questions, email me. Let's move on. I don't know how many questions more we have. Thanks again for your patience. Okay, we've got 2 more questions. And this one is kind of like um, this one is a paired passage. Okay, so let's look at these together, and then we're done for today. If you're not able to read this, let me know, but I think you should be able to. So I'm going to put 9 and 10 together side by side because they're related. Okay, and that's how you should think about these paired passages. Okay, so the passage indicates that after a long day of work, right, the narrator sometimes found his living quarters to be. Okay, that's right over here. And I told you, right, the last few lines, there should be something, right? There's got to be something over here. So that's why I read it carefully. So the narrator sometimes found his living quarters to be treacherous. Not really, right? There's no treachery going on. Dreary, kind of like depressing. Yeah, yeah, because there's no fire, right? Who knows what else, right? Like he's alone probably. There, right? So no fire, etc. Predictable. Sometimes found his living quarters to be predictable. So here he's saying, right, I turn from a general view of my affairs, which is like his job, to the particular speculation as to whether my fire would be out. So sometimes the fire is on, maybe the super is setting it up, right? Of course, there's no super, but like, the person in charge of his lodgings, maybe they set it up, maybe sometimes they don't. They set it up, sometimes they don't. So that's why it's not predictable, right? It's crazy. right? Who knows what other unpredictability there is, but I wouldn't read too much into it. But here it is. The fire is out this time, right? Intolerable or dreary, right? Both of them could work, but intolerable is probably not as good of a choice because he's not hating it. He really hates this, right? This is the main piece. He hates his job. And then this is like kind of like the little piece, little extra, another set of dissatisfaction. That's why I would say dreary is a bit more correct. But let's see now, right? That's how you can do this. You got two choices. Now you, in your mind, you know, there's either could be dreary or intolerable. And now let's look at the choices right from here, 17 through 21. So we're just searching for dreary to 21, right? So I should have pent up in every sigh by which my heart had ventured to intimate its distress. And his panting desire. I should have set up the image of duty. Okay, this is not very clear to me what he's saying. Okay, I'm just reading it very fast here, right? Right, there is some monotony, joyous tumult, right? Possible. Some boredom is going on over here, okay? But there's no talk about boredom over here, okay? Last one, B, 21 through 23, okay? 21 through 23. I should have set up the image of duty, perseverance in my small bedroom at Mrs. King's lodgings, and they too should have been my household gods. Okay, so not really talking about anything about the affairs at home. He's just talking that these two things, right? He's and he's at home, right? So not really talking about either the boredom, the dissatisfaction, or there's no boredom, there's no dissatisfaction or intolerability, right? So that's gone, right? 64 to 67. The thoughts not varied but strong, occupied my mind. Two voices. So this is all about his house, right? This is a piece where they're talking about his house, like his lodgings, and then this is the second part where he's talking about this house. So two voices spoke to me. No, 64 to 67. Okay. Thoughts not varied but strong occupied my mind. Two voices spoke within me again and again. They uttered the same monotonous phrases. Okay, this clearly is wrong. Okay, thank goodness this is wrong. Okay, so now we're gonna make a choice between 70 and 21. Let's look at 70. We got to make a choice between A and D. Let's read D, 68 through 74, right? That's 68. What can you do about it? Okay, so I walked fast, for it was a cold, frosty night in January. As I approached my lodgings, I turned from a general view of my affairs to the particular speculation as to whether my fire would be out. Right, I looked toward the window of my sitting room, but I saw no. So yeah, this one is a bit depressing, right? It's not intolerable, it's more depressing, and this part looks more correct. Maybe this one I should read it probably a bit more carefully, but this is more about like something else. This clearly talks. This clearly talks about. This clearly talks that tells us that his lodgings are not intolerable, but at least this is the correct answer. That's for sure. This is gone, right? This is the correct answer. And now let's think about these two choices. Is it dreary or intolerable? I don't think it's intolerable, but he can tolerate it. He can have another job and still live in the same place, right? You can think about it this way. He can still live in the same place. That's why intolerable is wrong. Intolerable is his job and his employer. Those are the people he wants to get rid of. But the house he can live for another few years, and then maybe he'll start complaining more about the house. But for now, it's just dreary. Okay, so that's why B is the correct answer. And I think that concludes today's session. Okay, so so how was it? Was it helpful, guys? This is like, we used to do this last year, then I stopped doing it. But I don't know. If you want to do more, right, we can continue a little bit at least. But this was purely lit, right? Great. Thank you. Thanks. So yeah, I know you must have done the first one. I don't know if you did this one, but great. Thank you. Thanks, Vic, Shravani, Blessing, Viola, Tanya, Lad, Jelly. Yes, great. Zanor, Sahil, excellent. Mohammed, excellent. Right. Yes, yeah, we'll do some history passages, right? So we'll for sure, we'll try some of these history passages. Grammar, I don't know. Grammar, I think I can suggest you a few books. I think grammar is easier for people like you, most of you, right? I can send you some stuff. It's not okay. I think reading is a bit harder. Grammar, I think I can send you a few. I mean, I can suggest you a few books. Like you can check them out. Right, those books have some great. Just email me. I might, if I might forget, but but what I'll say is like reading is, I think, more important even in your life. Reading skills are so important. Like just marking it, like having a pen and marking stuff out really helps. Printing stuff out and marking it, right? So great. So we'll do maybe in the next few weeks, maybe we'll have another right for sure. I've got some tips about history passages, right? Like those ornate languages. I love those history passages. Actually, I'm a big fan of Revolutionary War. Um, you mailed me yesterday about, yes, I'm going to send you the math website, right? Yeah, thanks. Yeah, just give me a few, like maybe 1 or 2 more days, I'll send them to you. Um, so yes, thanks, honey. So this part is good. So the hexacoda method is just basically this way, right? The hexacoda method is for your essay writing, right? Your essay writing is the hexacoda is, and to understand, this is for like hexacoda is kind of like the logic concept, right? All of the logic that you use. So hexacoda is super easy. It's like if, think about a situation, if something happens, right? If something happens, there's fear, and if something else happens, there's right, they're putting you fear or hope, right? So the in the passage itself, right, this is about just understanding in the back of your mind the various tools the author uses. It's not going to directly help you to improve your reading. It'll definitely help you to improve your SAT essay critiques, right? The essay, you have to critique an essay, right? So if they say, hey, if you don't wear a mask during COVID-19, right, then you might end up in one of the worst hospitals in New York City or something like that, right? So that's the if, right? Or if you study hard, right, you'll go to a great college and you'll have a great career. That's the if part, right? As soon as you see the if part, you can write it in your essay. This is one thing is about the essay and one is about the reading, right? In your mind, just think about it this way. Right now, at least think about the essay, right? You can write, oh, the author says, uses this hypothetical situation to further his, right, his thesis, etc. Um, it's just a quick way to think about all of the pieces, right? It's not useful for literature, obviously, but it's useful for those social sciences, and it's also useful for the history passages, okay? The E is gonna be evidence, scientific evidence, okay? Just an evidence. What is the evidence? Experiments, right? Hardcore core logic. Like some guy did an experiment in this university, he proved this, and therefore what I'm saying is correct, right? It could be about politics as well. It could be about science. It could be about anything. Some doctor somewhere, some PhD guy made some research, and that's why this is true. Okay, X is just examples, right? There are 25 different countries in the world that are doing such and such a thing. That's why this is a good thing. Okay, so hypotheses, evidence, examples, and this one is assumptions. This actually, what I mean by assumptions is like changing the like thinking about the assumptions and crushing them. So like an assumption could be let's say COVID-19, right, is caused by certain things, and then you look at the assumption and then you kind of cancel it out. Okay, and I'm moving fast over here. This is comparisons. Okay, I think I gave an example of comparisons. Comparisons, guys, means that you have a complex situation like COVID-19. You compare it to something like glitter, right? COVID-19 has virus, right? All kinds of things going on. Glitter is like these small things. Obviously, you know what glitter is, but both of them can stick to your hand. Once they stick to your hand, if you touch anything, the glitter will stick everywhere. It'll start shining, right? So that's a great example of something which, when stuck, like you got to be careful. So that's the example over here, right? Another example could be you explain something very complicated by using a very simpler model, right? That's comparisons. These are all the tools that the author uses to convince you that their thesis is right, right? So they're being sneaky in a way, and everybody's sneaky in one way or the other in proving that their point of view is correct and the other person's point of view is not. Okay, so that's it over here, right? This is data over here, right? This is pure data, and then you can think about this one as like authority. Okay, I forgot this one. This is opposing, forgot to put it in over here, opposing view. This is kind of the classic opposite view or counterclaim. All right. So kind of like you can say, we shouldn't wear masks because somebody shouldn't, because some people like it's not so comfortable, etc. But then if you don't wear masks, some else would happen, right? So the that's the counterclaim kind of thing going on, right? So consider the opposite person's point of view and then totally crush it. Okay, consider the opposite person's point of view and totally crush it. So that's the opposing point of view. That's why it's O over here. Data is just numbers. The author is just going to give you tons of numbers and then try to sound very scientific. All of these things, guys, these 8 things you can use in your essay writing to say the author uses these tools. Because as you know, in your essay writing, if you're ever going to write the essay, it's important for you to bring out to understand each of these tools. Okay, and then the authority is like, some scientist or something, right? Like Albert Einstein said something, and so because he said this, it must be true, right? So that's the alert, that's the authority, right? So these are the 8 things. That's kind of like a logos kind of thing, right? The logical piece. There are others, but if you can identify even 3 of these, right, you're golden on your essay writing, right? Not only are you golden in your essay writing, these things you keep on understanding. This is exactly the piece that not only does the author write in essays, that's what they're using in their reading passages, right? Like many of the times the author is going to use these similar pieces, the hexacoda methods, to convince you of their arguments, right? So that's all it is. So with that, I think we should wrap up, and I hope you like this. We are going to meet tomorrow at 2 p.m. and we're going to start with percents. Good old percents and exponents. Okay, so the people who have, of course, part of my bootcamp, you know what the deal is, but people who are joined, I know there might be a few who for whom this is a free session, right? So this is part of the 20-hour bootcamp, right? We have the regular sessions, math sessions. We have test taking, and then we have the final one, which is yeah, you're welcome, Rosie. And then the final one that you have is the testing and then the English sessions, right? So all of this, I'm just saying it's 20 hours, but it's much more than that. You can click on this link, join the sessions, and you'll see how useful it is, and you see how enthusiastic our community is, right? So with that, thanks guys for your attention, and I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, have a good night.